Good morning. Hope everyone's doing alright. This is One Life here with a beat breakdown of Night Dancer 2. Thank you to Atlas for suggesting it as well. I just want to give a quick rundown on who I am. So I'm One Life. I make beats for like the Ripscore community. I've made a few beats with Lucy. And yeah, I've been producing for about 5, 6, 7 years. My family's from South Africa, but I currently live in London, the UK. And yeah, I just want to stress that this isn't a guide on how to make a good beat. This is just what I do, how I like to make my beats and set them up. And I think this is a good beat to choose because it kind of encompasses everything that I do in a Ripscore beat. So just to start off, I like to start with the melodies, and I'm not going to go over this for too long just because I didn't make them, but I think it's important to show how sampling can be powerful. So this is Iris by the Goo Goo Dolls. So that's sample number one. And what I like to do is I like to combine samples. So this is another sample from the same band, different song. And I like combining samples because it can sometimes make a new sample that doesn't sound like either of them, if you know what I mean. So together, it sounds like a completely different sound. And I'm sure you guys are aware I've got Lucy melodies on this one, so these are the ones Lucy sent me. And yeah, all together. So that's the melody side of things. I've also got a kind of background. I like putting nature in my songs a lot. So you sometimes hear, birds chirping, oceans and stuff like that. I like to put them in my beats. I'm not saying you guys have to, but so this is just a random ocean sound, and I've just sort of brought it in and out where's need be. And yeah, I like to mix everything right at the end, but I'll just show you what I've put on my melody. So for Iris, I've put an EQ just on the lows. I like to carve out a lot of the lows on all my melodies just so they don't get in the way of the 808. Just a really, really small low pass, high pass. And I put ozone on there just to give it a bit of, ozone I think is something I recommend to everyone. It's really good for stereo widening, so it makes your sounds sound a bit more whole. The stereo image is really powerful. And for the other melody, so I've used Sound Goodizer, and I just want to stress that I used to use this a lot, but I use it very sparingly now because obviously, it does make a lot of stuff sound good, but it does clutter the beat up a lot. So I've put a very gentle Sound Goodizer on that just to give it a bit more, just just make it a bit more whole. With Lucy's melodies, I didn't touch them too much because he's already mixed them before sending them to me, but if you notice here, I've put a left and right pan on my melodies. I love doing that. You can see I do it on my drums as well. If you have them both here, they get in the way a lot, but if you have one for the left and one for the right, it gives it a stereo kind of effect. And I've just put a very small EQs on these melodies just to kind of carve out some spaces, and I've emphasized where the notes are hitting as well. So where the notes hit, I'll find where it's sharp and where it's too loud, and I'll just give it a little dimple sometimes, or in some cases I'll I don't want to make too many sharp cuts, but yeah, that's the main melody side of things. And like I say, I do like to do all this stuff with the effects right at the end, but I'm just going to show you as I go. So we've done the melodies. Now for the drums. The way I do drums is a bit weird, but I'll just show you. So I'll always start with the hi-hats and the claps. So this is probably the most important part of a Rip Squad beat. I'll just play them really quickly. So something I like to do is I like to have symmetry. Imagine this is the middle, this line here. I like to have the same amount of rolls on each side, and I also like to have the rolls hit on the claps. So if you notice, they always hit on the clap, 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 clap. So the rolls are hitting on the claps, and the rolls are in 6-beat. So 6-beat meaning most people make drums like da 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 da. So like, 2-step, but 3-step is da 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 da. So it's, you want to make the rolls in 3-step, but you want to make the drums in 2-step. So the rolls 6-beat, drums 2-beat. And I like to do like a big roll, then a little roll, then I like to vary it up a bit, with some symmetry still being preserved. I'll also change the velocity of them with a randomizer. So if you highlight all your notes and then Alt R, you can randomize the velocity. I like to do it very, very slightly, just so it makes it sound a bit more natural, like it's been played in, rather than just copied and pasted. And I have the same amount of triples, so 3, 4, 5. I think I had about 6 triples on each side. But yeah, symmetry is important. With the hi-hats, how did I? And the hi-hat. Let's go to the hi-hat. I didn't do too much with the EQ on the hi-hat. I just like to take a lot of the highs out in this one, just because there's a lot of high melodies in this specific song, but you don't really need to EQ them that much. The reverb, I've put a very, very, very small reverb on it. I'll show you the difference, but without the reverb and with the reverb, it kind of makes it a bit, I don't know what it does, but it makes it sound a bit better in my ear. The clap as well, very important. The clap needs to be very loud. A lot of people are scared to make their claps loud, but you need to remember that when you play these beats on big systems, the lows are going to dominate and the highs are going to dominate, but the mids sometimes, especially in a car, you need to have a loud clap. So and I know there's some space in the EQ. I like to EQ my stuff, imagining that, you know, if I've carved a lot out of this bit and I've carved a lot out of this bit, I can, you know, compensate by boosting it in another instrument. So it's a zero sum game. You know, if you've carved a bit out of the middle, you can boost it in the middle in some things, and it's all about making room for the instruments, right? So you don't want to have everything boosted on every channel. You want to have enough room for the lows, the highs, and then in this case the mids. So that's layer one. I do drums in layers. So layer one would be the hi-hats and the claps. Layer two is the 808 and the kick usually. So I'll show you layer two now. So with the 808, you can see for those who don't know, I'm sure most of you do, but whenever you mix an 808 or whenever you play it in, always put it on like a really high key just so you can hear. And you just want the 808 to kind of follow the melody, so you can kind of see it's working with the iris. And yeah, the 808s themselves are very, very, very important. Rip Squad and Lucy like to put them quite low, as do I. So, I mean, I don't remember where this was. Wasn't that low? Yeah. And obviously, you want to do cut itself. You want to have that selected. Otherwise, it just won't sound good. So. Once you've got the 808 and the kick as well, I like to bring the kick in after, so I'll have the hi-hat with the 808, and then I'll bring the kick in, you know. So it kind of makes, when that kick comes in, it makes it sound a lot better than if it came in right at the start. So yeah, I'll have the 808 with the hi-hat, and then I'll bring the kick in. So the 808 and the kick, layer two. How did I mix those? Okay, so the 808, I've just put an EQ on it. I always like to have the high a bit up with the 808. You can actually put this on 25 hertz because nothing really gets through below 25 anyway. But yeah, I like to have some gain on it. With the kick as well. Where's the kick? You notice that I've increased the kick where I've decreased the 808. So there's a dimple there and there's a little increase there. So that's sort of a, not really a side chain, but it sort of gives space for the kick. And yeah, I don't sidechain in any of my beats, any of my Rip Squad beats, because it doesn't sound as punchy and it just takes away from the 808. So yeah, the kick in the 808, that's layer two, and layer three would be the kind of extras. So this would be layer three in my opinion. So this is just what you add and sprinkle on when the kick comes in. So you've got the 808 and the hi-hats and the claps, and then you've got the kick with, I like to put some rim shots. I'm a big fan of rim shots. And I also like to layer a Zaytoven chant with the clap. So if you hear the Zaytoven chant where the clap is, and I always like to have a little open hat somewhere, you know. I'm not very good with open hats, but I think they're really powerful. See here, just makes it sound breezy, you know, makes it sound fresh. So yeah, so you got layer 1, hi-hats and claps, layer 2, kick and 808. You can sometimes separate them into patterns. And you got layer 3, which is, you know, rim shots, triangle. I'm not going to go mad into what I've added to these. I've just pretty much put an EQ on them, but I've separated them. As you can see here, I've panned a lot of them. So I've been kind of I've tried to be fair and balance it. You know, I've got some on the right, some on the left, but what you find happens is if you just have them all, you know, in the middle, then it does sound less stereo-y. You want it to sound a bit more stereo, especially for these kind of beats because there's a lot going on. So you want to widen it and separate it out. So yeah, you just the hi-hat, the clap and the 808, and then you bring in the kick with layer 3. And when I say layer 3, you know, with the extra drums, you want to bring in any counter melodies you have. So I'll bring the Lucy melodies in with that. So I'll just have my melodies here, and then I'll have Lucy's melodies when the kick comes in with the third layer. And yeah, that's most of the beat in this one. It's not a massive beat. I've also on the master as well. I just want to stress that there's a lot of people that get the lab coats out. You know, they'll put 15 different plugins. They'll get the flux capacitor and this and that. Like, I can't stress this enough. A lot of these sounds and a lot of these drums are already mixed and they're already mastered. So it's you don't really need to put a lot on the master. You really don't. What I like to do is I'll put an EQ on it, not an EQ2, just an EQ. And this is what a lot of industry producers do. They'll put the lows and the highs on, you know, about 1.2, 1.3 boost, and they'll put the mids on about 1. And this basically emboldens your beat a tiny bit, makes it sound a tiny bit better. And I'll always put a soft clipper on the master, it's very important. And the only thing I put a soft clipper on would be the 808 and the master. So with the 808, I'll put the threshold right down, and then I'll put the post up to about between 80 and 90, whatever. See, without it and with it, just makes it sound a bit more muddy in a good way. And yeah, I'll just put a soft clipper on the master, and the one on the master, don't touch. Literally just put it on there. And it will limit your beat and it will try and keep it below 0 decibels. That's the goal. And to test your beat, once you've made it, I mean, this is pretty much the whole beat explained, but right at the end, if you want to compare it to like industry producers and stuff, you want to use the Ulean loudness meter. So there's a lot of stuff going on this, but you just want to look at here. You want this to be around -12. Oh, sorry, the integrated, you want to be -12. So this is the total loudness of the song, and that's just in certain snippets. You want the integrated flux to be -12. And you want the decibels to just be below 0, ideally. As you can see, I didn't follow that rule with this one, but I have I've messed around with the beat a bit, so maybe it affected it. But yeah, I think I missed a couple of things, but that's most of it. And if you guys need or want any more of these in the future, just let me know. And yeah, peace out.